All right. Good morning, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So to kick us off, tell me your name, your company, and your position there.
I'm Jennifer Whetzel, and I'm the founder of Lady Jane Branding. I'm the founder and author of the Women in Cannabis Study, and I am a co-founder of the Independent Diamond Brokers and the Maine Growers Marketplace.
That's awesome. You are one busy person.
Yeah, a little too busy.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. What brought you to starting Lady Jane Branding and then to the Women in Cannabis report?
Sure. So my background is in marketing and advertising, and I've been doing that for most of my career. And in 2017, I moved to Maine. I had lost my job. I was living in the Midwest, and I was sick. I had a lot of chronic illnesses, and I needed to move someplace where I could get a medical card. And so Maine was my choice. I got a job here. And then in 2018, I had a really difficult year, trauma-wise, between a divorce. My mother moved here and I had to care for her. I got into a car accident. I lost my job. There were a lot of things that happened. And fortunately, I was, a year into medical cannabis use at the time. And so that helped me deal with those traumas. But I realized, I was going to have a difficult time getting a job. Because I really wasn't able to work for someone else at that time. And so I decided to start Lady Jane Branding so that I could have a business in cannabis and where I could help entrepreneurs do something that I knew how to do, which was branding. So I was bringing my skills to this industry to do something new. And about a year into that, I decided to start the Women in Cannabis Study. I was sponsoring an event in Vegas called the National Women of Cannabis Conference in 2019. And I have some background in experiential marketing. So I wanted to have an activation there, something for women to do at this event. And for Lady Jane Branding, I often had a personality quiz at my booth, and people loved that. So I decided to do a survey. I'm a data nerd. I love data. So great, I'll do a survey. And, I was trying to figure out the topic. I was thinking about all of the social media stories. I was seeing the comments, people being harassed, women just not being treated very well. And it was really making me angry. And again, being a data nerd, I was looking for whatever was out there on women who either work in cannabis or are just consumers of cannabis. And there's some, but there wasn't any comprehensive data on the topic. And I have a tendency to do things bigger than I mean to. And so I've turned this research project into this giant thing, where we've spoken to, we did a quantitative study with over 1,600 women. It was very thorough. There was about 100 questions. About 820 women got to the very last question, but many of them made it all the way through. We did 16 video interviews with filmmaker Wendy Borman, and we did 23 qualitative interviews with women selected from the quantitative. And it's taken me a number of years to get the data, to analyze the data and to write the report. I tried to get help to do it, and I just wasn't able to find money or the right help. And so I ended up having to do it myself with the support of some really wonderful allies who were working with me, like Mosaic Insights and Rochelle Gordon, to really help me get the report to the finish line. And now it's released, yay. So that feels good.
Yeah, sounds like it was quite the journey just to get to this point. So what changed once you started from starting that personality quiz to the point that you said, we're going to interview, 1,600 people for this?
I didn't think it was going to be 1,600. Honestly, I had no idea how many responses I was going to get. We kept going. We kept the study open so that I tried to have a representative sample of who works in the industry. And I think we did that for the most part. However, we missed out on a lot of younger women. The survey is overrepresented with business owners and women who are later in their career. So we kept the survey open until we thought we had enough to do a good analysis of all the different groups within the study. We still didn't really have a completely representative sample. So that just means we'll have to do this again.
Absolutely. So prior to getting your medical card in Maine, can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with cannabis?
Yes. So, I had experimented early on, and I was an opioid user. And I lived in the Midwest, and I didn't really have access. I didn't know anyone. I was afraid. But cannabis, I knew, was the only thing that helped with the pain of some of my symptoms. And so, funny story, there was the time that I asked the head of the company where I worked. I wasn't quite the head. I was like, I need some weed. Like, he was my boss's boss. And he found me some. And I saved it and used it over like 2 years. I'm sure it was awful, but but it was the only thing that helped, and I didn't know anybody else. I didn't know how to get it. And so that's why when it was time for me to move out of the Midwest, like, why would I move anywhere else? I need to move where it's legal, where I can have access to this. And I didn't really even know what I was doing. Didn't know what I was doing when I became a daily medical patient. And it's been 5 years now. Sometimes I still don't know what I'm doing, but all my physical symptoms are gone. I have relieved all of the symptoms of my chronic illnesses using cannabis and brain retraining. So that's exciting.
That's incredible. Congratulations. That's a lot of hard work you put in for that.
It's a lot of hard work. So I'm totally off the opioids. I don't drink anymore. I used to take handfuls of drugs, handfuls every day, not just opioids, but all kinds of things. And now I take 0 pills. Pills are important for some people, not for me any longer. Like, I realized I was trying to medicate tired, which you can't take a pill for tired. You should take a nap. And I just realized that recently. It's like, wow, what a waste. What a waste of pills and my body to just medicate something that all I needed was rest. And that's tragic, but I know that now.
Yes, and it can be hard to identify when you need rest over other things. We're not conditioned to recognize that well, particularly as women.
Yeah, I thought it was a headache. I had been trying to medicate this headache that hurt my sinuses. Like, it's tired. That's all that is. It's tired. I mislabeled it. So
learning to hear what your body is saying to you. It's a challenge. Exactly. So now that you have been in this industry for a couple of years, you've seen things progress, you've seen more states come online. What is one trend or one thing you see that excites you?
I do like seeing new brands in the marketplace doing new and different things. I like seeing a lot of brands that are women focused and women owned and women led. I think that's important. I like that there are more tools for tracking, cannabis use and how it works. I like that there are more groups for women. In some ways, I think things are progressing. In most ways, I think they're maybe not. So.
Well, that's fair. And that leads me to my next question. What is something that you see that really upsets you or that you are not a fan of?
Well, there's a lot of that in the report, because we looked at things like sexual harassment and microaggressions and, lack of opportunity, lack of pay for women. The space is not equitable, and not just for women. It's not equitable for anyone. And that bothers me. I'm trying. What I did about it was I did some research and I put it out into the world for free, in the hopes that it could help change the industry for the better. I went to an event over the weekend in Boston. I went to NECAN, and it's, the ratio of men to women continues to change in favor of men. I tried to speak to as many women as I could over the weekend. And I'd say it was only 20 to 25% of the crowd. And wow. Comfortable. to be honest. I went to an after party and I walked in and I felt like, it's a very small percentage of women. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. And sometimes it's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that respect, in Lady Jane branding, how are you pushing for diversity and inclusion and space for other people in the industry?
I'm not doing a whole lot with Lady Jane branding right now. I just don't have the time or the focus. And honestly, it was really hard to convince the target that I wanted to work with to pay for branding, which is okay. They'll come to me later when they really need it and have a budget. But in terms of it's the report that is my contribution, and I feel like the data can give us the power to use our voices a little more boldly, to ask questions, to have hard conversations. I don't typically use my voice. I never was allowed to, so it's a thing I'm trying to overcome. I've got all the self-esteem issues that I asked about in my study, about not valuing my own time or not saying, having difficulty saying no, those kinds of things. But honestly, this weekend, the data gave me, I allowed myself to be more bold. And I'll give you an example. There were 3 women and a guy in a booth. And I was talking about the study, and the man that was there is a C-level exec. He said, this is great. We have lots of women on our executive team. And I said, that's great. Do you pay them the same as you pay the men? And I couldn't believe those words came out of my mouth, and neither could he. He was a little shook, and he's like, I'm not sure. I'm not the CFO. And that was the answer. I was like, okay, that's fair. And the woman next to me said, I don't think so, but I'm afraid to ask. So I felt like I did what she couldn't do in that moment. And it scared me to be able to say those words, to put someone on the spot like that, and not in a nasty way. I wasn't mean. It was just hey, do you pay him the same? So I hope that this data emboldens others, because I could say, well, my study said that only 25% of women say they're paid the same as men. So that's why I'm asking,
Yeah, absolutely. That's a powerful question to ask somebody, a C-suite level man. That'll make them stop in their tracks.
I hope so.
But we're not supposed to ask about it.
No, I know.
So looking forward, what do you hope the future of the industry is?
My hope is that the industry can sustain, a large number of small businesses, that are not all wiped out and taken over by larger funded businesses where women and legacy market growers or minorities are pushed out because they don't have the money to remain. One of the stories I heard so frequently when I talked to women, and even in the study, was I had this great job, this great company, or I started this company, and then I got fired or demoted or pushed out, and they brought in a man with half the experience and paid him twice as much. Maybe not all the stories were exactly the same, but so frequent that I have to repeat it. So how do we prevent that? How do we ensure that the smaller businesses, that women, that those who are coming into this industry can remain and succeed? One of the questions I asked in the study was, how do you define success for yourself? And do you consider yourself successful? And 86% said they do consider themselves successful. But that definition of success is very different than what, say, a venture capital firm who's funding a business would expect. They're expecting a 4 to 10x return, and a lot of these small single person businesses, single woman enterprises, that's not their definition. Like, they're not in business to make money for someone else. They're in business to succeed for themselves and to help And to my favorite definition, everyone around me eats too. It's making sure that, I'm lifting myself up and everyone else around me. And that's different than 4 to 10x. And so when you accept money from someone, your own definition of success has to change to the person who has the money. Then you're beholden to shareholders and stakeholders. And I hope there's a way for a lot of these smaller businesses to survive and thrive, or find funding that supports their definition of success.
I like that you said that, find funding that supports their definition of success, which of course taps into just the overall challenge of finding funding in the first place and then determining whether or not it aligns with your beliefs.
100%. So take that a step further, is we need to find people with money who value the things more than just money. So of course there needs to be a financial return, but what else, as potential investors, what else can you hope for? Like if I were, if I had some money to invest, I might hope for, let's change the world. Maybe I'll accept I don't need 10x return. I'll take 2. That'd be awesome. But can we change the world? Can we help people? Can we make sure that everyone is thriving?
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's how most investors approach a situation. They just want the money.
But wouldn't that be something if we had investors who wanted a 2x return and an investment of 5% of your profits in your community?
And that'd be fantastic.
That would change the world, truly. So this study has been several years in the making. What has been your biggest challenge in putting it out?
Finding funding to pay people to help me. So I paid for it myself. I did a lot of the work myself. I did have a lot of great, amazing allies helping me with it along the way. From data scientists and graphic designers but I was really hoping to have I was really hoping to turn it over to a big team and have them just turn it back to me finished. That's not how it went. So also the pandemic was in the way, so I think there was just took a while to get it done.
What is something that has made you really proud during your cannabis journey?
I know that I created this study, and look, I created this tangible thing with my mind, and that's cool. And people appreciate it. And that I feel like that's my definition of success. I made something that is going to be useful to people and hopefully can make a difference. If just one piece of data in here can help someone, or if one of the stories that I've put in here from these amazing women who donated their time and their stories to me, if that story helps them get through something, then I've done a good job.
And isn't that the whole purpose of stories, is to help people?
Yes.
So you touched on using the study to help people get through things, helping women find their voice, to advocate for themselves. Is there anything else you want people to take away from this study?
Yes, I would like for them to share, screenshot and share things that you find interesting or you want to talk about. One of the interesting data points that I have now is that the vast majority of those who have looked at the study so far online are women, like almost 90%. And that's interesting, but not surprising. So, there's a lot here. It's a little bit intimidating, the amount of data that's in here. So I'm hoping to force the conversation, to have a small army of people just sharing oh, look at this data point, let's talk about it, and encouraging other people to go and look through the whole thing, because it doesn't matter if no one reads it.
Yeah. So looking forward, now that this study is published, what's next?
I need a nap.
You deserve one.
a really long nap. No, I'm working with my partner Rochelle Gordon. We'll be doing webinars with different organizations. We'll be doing more publications, additional data releases. We have a little bit of data from Canada and from the UK, and we'll be summarizing that information and putting it out. We're hoping to do an event later in the year. So we'll be looking for sponsors. We'll have the opportunity to do more ads and profiles in these publications. And our hope is to find sponsors for the next round of research. This was meant to be the baseline. So my hope was that this would be a longitudinal study, and we would repeat it every few years to see how things changed. And what I've seen so far is that things have changed for the worse. So it's time to collect more data. But we can't do that without industry support and funding, sponsors. So my partner Rochelle will be, doing a lot of that. I have another business to run here in Maine, so we do these networking events for growers each month, and I create an app, a wholesale trade app for growers here, and so I got a lot to do.
Got a lot of businesses pulling you in a lot of different directions.
Yeah. I need to do less, but working on that.
It seems to be an ongoing challenge, doesn't it? So, just personally, what is your favorite way to consume cannabis?
I smoke flower. I prefer a joint, or I have a genius pipe. I have a number of genius pipes, and so I like to use those.
I got to agree with you there. There's just something about rolling and smoking a joint that is so ritualistic and satisfying.
I agree. I totally agree. And combusting works best for me. Edibles, tinctures, it's like it just doesn't work the way I need it to. So
yeah, there's something to be said for that instant relief that you get after smoking.
There is, and I will say that 70 to 74% of women agree with me who work in cannabis.
Interesting.
Those are the data points for medical and non-medicinal use, although I can't remember which is which at the moment. But yes, the majority of women who work in cannabis combust.
That is particularly interesting, because I feel like when you see articles about edibles, they're oftentimes led with, more women prefer edibles over smoking.
They do, but those are not women who work in cannabis. Those are typical consumers and those who are curious about cannabis, because we actually did some additional research with current and curious consumers. And we have that data in the report comparing industry insiders to everyone else. And industry insiders use cannabis significantly more often for more things and in more form factors than anyone else. So we're truly, heavy users and industry insiders.
I like that. I'm calling myself an industry insider from now on. So this has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed getting to pick your brain. I have one more question for you, but before I ask that, is there anything else you want to touch on or share with people who are going to read this?
Let's see. No, I'm hoping that people screenshot and share. Please talk about the study. The data is actually quite useful. I tried to ensure that there was some really good market research nuggets in there, more than just advocacy or having it feeling like complaining about men, because not about that. Really useful stuff in here. And soon we will have a print copy available for sale. I'm working on that right now.
Oh, awesome. Be sure to include that.
Yep. And people can read it for free at womenincannabis.study.
Okay, awesome. I will link directly to that study, both on this video on YouTube and in the feature itself. So we'll take people right there.
Great.
I myself have started to skim it, but as you said, it's a very dense study, so I need to allocate some time to sit down and get through.
It is a lot, yes. It took a couple years to write. It'll take time to read and digest for sure.
Well, I'm so glad we got to talk about this. So my last question for you today is, what is your favorite fun fact about cannabis?
My favorite fun fact about cannabis. The thing that I like to tell people most often is to eat the bud right off the plant. My cannabis doctor, Dr. Dustin Sulak, recommends this every time I talk to him. Take a pencil eraser size bud and just pop it in your mouth, stick it under your tongue, because that is the most potent anti-inflammatory medicine that there is in the plant, and it's highly fragile, so it's hard to make. So if you grow, pop it in your mouth. Love that.
Interesting. And that's from all the acidic cannabinoids, correct? Not the activated ones?
Exactly. So it's possible to get that powerful medicine and not have a high, just eat it.
Fascinating. I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
I love
fresher the
that.
better, but you can just, you can eat the bud that you have. It just needs to be a little bit.
Well, I'm sure you don't want to be chewing on a lot of it either. They can get pretty dense. Well, awesome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you so much.